Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Craig, brought to you by Sacramento Black Rifle and Sparks Black Rifle, two of the West Coast premier gun stores that don't just believe in the commerce of the Second Amendment, but also believe in the fundamental right of the Second Amendment, and thus make sure that we are able to exercise our First Amendment rights by bringing Coffee with Craig to you. So please support Sacramento Black Rifle, support Sparks Black Rifle as they support your right to keep and bear arms. Before we get started, please remember to like and share this video feed so that your friends can join into the conversation. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, please make sure to do so. Make sure to subscribe and share so that, once again, people can join in the live feed. But also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, the more subscribers we have, the easier it is for us to be able to support this program. So subscribe and recommend to others to subscribe, and follow us. Follow our Facebook page so that you can get all of our action alerts and know exactly what's going on and when it's going on, and you will be in the know when it comes to gun rights in these United States. Also, one more item, want to make sure to remind you, FPC gear is now open. That's right, FPC gear, where you can get all sorts of cool T-shirts, shall I say. I'm sorry, is this subtle enough? Yes, so you can get all kinds of cool T-shirts. We've got a number of different T-shirts. We have our Gadsden Flags T-shirt. We've got our Ladies Gadsden Flag Don't Tread on Me T-shirt. We've got our Right to Bear Arms T-shirt. We've got the one which I will continue to say is my favorite, Gun Rights Because I Can't Carry a Cop in My Pocket T-shirt. We got these, we've got more, and we've got more coming. So please support the efforts. Know that the money that you use to purchase these T-shirts also goes to help support the work that we do. So you'll look good, you'll be supporting gun rights, you'll be supporting gun rights, and you'll be sending a positive message about our Second Amendment rights. So what else do you need to do? Go there. That's fpcgear.com. All right, let's get into today's topic, talking about spreading a message. Those of you, many of you watched the live feed yesterday where we talked about the fact that we filed a petition with the California Attorney General's office, Mr. Xavier Becerra, basically telling him to stop breaking the law. That's right. We had to tell the state's top cop that he needs to stop breaking the law. Well, how is he breaking the law, you might ask? Well, a couple of months ago, we won a big case against the state of California and the Department of Justice. It was Doe v. Becerra, where basically they were enforcing an illegal regulation, or trying to impose and enforce an illegal regulation, and we had to take them to court. And needless to say, we won. And they're supposed to now they're now supposed to not be enforcing that law anymore, that regulation, and they still are. We'll get into more details about that. Before we do, let me just lay it down. I'm going to have a good friend of mine, Mr. Brandon Combs. He's going to talk to you a little bit about the case and kind of explain to you exactly what the case Doe v. Becerra was about. Now, this is an interview that we did a couple of months ago. This was right after oral arguments following the case. But I think it's really insightful, and it'll help you have a better understanding of why this case is important.
Yeah, on their own. The law is very clear, and I think that anybody who reads the law would agree. The law says that no person can apply to purchase more than one handgun in any 30-day period, except unless you're a member of a class of, there's 13 different exempted classes, and one of the exemptions was if you had a certificate of eligibility from the Department of Justice, which is a background check, live scan, fingerprints, the whole works, and a curio and relics license from the federal government, an FFL. And so if you had those two things, then you're exempt from the law. That's the plain language. That's what it says. And we think that alone is sort of suggestive of what the legislature intended there. But the DOJ said one day, many years, over 10 years after their first interpretation, which was to do exactly what the statute said. And overnight, they sent out a memo, a policy advisory letter, to dealers saying, effective immediately, you can no longer do this, and if you do, it's a crime.
So now there's really then two issues here. One is the idea of an executive branch agency or an member of the executive branch deciding that they were going to write law by doing something that was not included, not mentioned in the original statute, correct?
That's right. I mean, there's the statute and what the statute says, and then by executive fiat, the DOJ just declared the law to be something else, and they didn't even follow the rulemaking process in the Administrative Procedure Act. So even if the statute were somehow unclear, which we don't think it is, but even if it were unclear, they didn't even follow the rules for making rules, and so that's why we had to file the case was to make sure that government is doing exactly what it should and no more.
Exactly what it should and no more. So, quick synopsis once again. This dealt with what dealt with 1 in 30 handgun limit here in the state of California. You can only purchase one handgun every 30 days. If you had a curio and relics license and a COE, you were exempt from that law. All of a sudden, Kamala Harris decided, we're going to change our interpretation and sent out a letter to all dealers saying you can't process these transactions. If they've already purchased one, they can't purchase another one within a 30-day period. No process, no nothing. There's a process we have in California called the Administrative Procedures Act, where it's supposed to be a public process. When they change a rule, they didn't do that. Not only that, they ignored the plain text of the law. So now you know what this is. So now you know what the case is. Now, an appellate court, a left-leaning appellate court, I mean, it's the state of California. Do I really have to say? It sounds kind of redundant to say it's left-leaning. But needless to say, it was a left-leaning appellate court panel basically ruled unanimously that they had overstepped their bounds. Not only did they ignore just the letter of the law, which was plain and obvious, but they also, even if they were going to change the law, change the rules, there are rules for making rules, and they violated those rules. And therefore, they are no longer allowed to enforce this illegal law. Now, I know what you're saying. Why is this important? And now I'm going to let Brandon kind of break down to you in our discussion once again about this is why it is important. So you already know what it is. Now let's talk a little bit about why it is so important.
Well, I think that the first thing is always about the plaintiffs in the case. These plaintiffs have a CNR and a COE. They should be able to acquire the handguns they wish in a lawful transaction in accordance with the statutes and the exemption that they fall under. So that's the first level. The second level is if you have a CNR and a COE, then this exemption would apply to you as well. And then you start going out from there. Importantly, this is one of those cases that might be more important today than when we filed it even, because with Proposition 63 and some of the ammunition statutes, if you have a CNR and COE, the general prohibition against what might be called mail order ammo or online purchases, having to go through an ammo vendor, you're exempt from that. You can have ammunition shipped to your home under the statutes if you have a CNR and a COE.
I think I can also, though, see, and I think you kind of hinted to it a little bit, where, this is a message to DOJ that you need to rethink your role in the governing process. That, it's really kind of help to put them in their place in terms of saying, look, it's not your job to make law. It's your job to enforce and administer law. That's it. If there's something extra that you want, if there's something extra you believe needs to be there, well, then guess what? It's the legislature's job to do that, not yours.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Department of Justice has lobbyists. They employ lobbyists. If they want to change the law, they have the same opportunity that everybody else does to find members that are sympathetic, carry a bill, and through the democratic process and debate, they can try to get the law changed. And if they don't like this, they can attempt to do that. But I think when an executive branch agency just decides to make up the law and say, well, it's, if these people are right, then that means more guns. And, that's an absurd result because our policy preference is that we don't like guns or we don't like gun owners, frankly, it starts to sound like a South Park episode. And I don't think that that's good government. And I think that's the reason why the Constitution of the state and the statutes and the APA have those checks and balances to make sure that these agencies just can't go out and make whatever law they want.
And that is exactly what Mr. Xavier Becerra and his predecessor, Kamala Harris, want to do. They just want to make whatever law they want. They want to make the world the way they want it, irrespective of what the actual law is. So they were ordered by this. So the court already determined, look, you violated the law when you did this. So now you can no longer enforce this illegal regulation. If you want to change how things are interpreted, you need to go back to the legislature. The lower court put in place an injunction to keep them from enforcing this regulation. But here's the deal. If you go to the Department of Justice website, the California Department of Justice website, it's still there. Nothing has changed. They have not changed how they are enforcing the law. So if you are an FFL, if you are a firearms retailer, and you have someone who comes and they have both the COE and the Curio and Relics license, and they want to buy a second gun within a 30-day period. If you go by what's on the website, they have to turn them down. Why? Because they are violating the law. They are breaking the law and informing others and telling other people to break the law by not making sure that their system is fully and wholly updated. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy who is always harping on our president, saying you can't just break the law. You can't just do whatever it is that you want to do. There's a process. There's a legal process, and you have an obligation to follow the. You know what? I'm sorry. Why don't I let the Attorney General speak with you and share with you in his own words?
No person in this country, even the president, is above the law. And if he wants to take an action, he must do it according to the law. Because, Chris, you go about a process. Even President Obama went about a process to establish an executive order. You go about a process. Remember, you have a whole bunch of people in this country. When our government takes action, they start to rely on the representations of our government. The president believes he's above the law, and he continues to act arbitrarily and capriciously in taking actions. If you want to change the law, Chris, don't break it.
If you want to change the law, Mr. Becerra, don't break it. How about following your own advice? Because that is exactly what you are doing, as you are seeking to enforce this illegal underground regulation. And folks, that's why we need to be upset. Because here's the deal. Here's what the courts told them. The courts told them, you can't just do whatever you want. You can't write law. Now, why is this important? They're still working on the regulations for ammunition. They're still working on those regulations. And we have a pretty good idea of what's going on, in that it's going to be really difficult for them to implement the law as it's written, right? And so they can't, but here's the deal. They can't just make it up as they go along. They can't just say, yeah, we're going to do whatever the heck we want. That's what the court told them. The court just told them, you can't do, oh, by the way, what I'm pretty sure they're trying to do with the ammunition regulations. The court also told them they can't do what they're trying to do with the bullet button regulations. Because guess what? You guys have all read them. They just made it up. They created a whole new classification of bullet button, of assault weapons. That was nowhere in the law. A bunch of the stuff that is in the bullet button ban regulations are not in law. They're not law. The Department of Justice just made it up. And a bunch of the stuff that's going to be in these ammo regs, the ones that are going to deal with the background checks and all of that, yeah, they're just making that stuff up too. And now the courts have caught on. And they recognize, no, Mr. Becerra, you do not get to just make stuff up. That's not your job. If you believe that the law as it is cannot be implemented or enforced, then you have an obligation to send it back to the legislature and say, so Nope, sorry, can't do nothing for you. I cannot implement this law because it is so poorly written, which we all know it's poorly written. It is so poorly written that we cannot implement this law, and therefore, hey, you guys are just going to have to do it again. That's what you should do, Mr. Attorney General Xavier Becerra, if you were to do your job. But at the very least,
stop breaking the law, asshole!
And that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the fight for our civil rights. Please remember to like and share these videos, like and share this video feed. Let everybody know about the Firearms Policy Coalition. Join, become a member. Go to joinfpc.org. Help us out. Help us help you support your right to keep and bear arms. As I said before, this is going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Remember, this is a fight for our civil rights. Got to use them, or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.